Dear friends, welcome to our kitchen. I'm Matteo Zambon and here is my partner Roberto Guiotto.
Hi Matteo.
Today we will talk about one of the most important topics in digital analytics: how to prepare spaghetti carbonara the Italian way. Spaghetti carbonara is one of the most famous dishes of Italian cuisine, which unfortunately very often is prepared in the wrong way.
There is a precise reason for today's spaghetti presentation. As you will remember, at SuperWeek 2020 there was an unfortunate episode that caused numerous riots in Italy and even forced the French President Macron to an official apology to the Italian government, if I remember well, Matteo.
Exactly, Roberto. We are talking about the obscene display of pineapple pizza that took place during the presentation of Julien Coquet.
Oh, Matteo, the pineapple pizza, what a shame! I mean, in Italy there are people who have been arrested by the gourmet police for making a pineapple pizza.
Julien, I don't know if we can ever forgive you for this, but we can try to make up for it with a great recipe of Italian cuisine, the spaghetti alla carbonara.
Oh.
Roberto, where does spaghetti carbonara come from?
From Rome, of course. Well, actually, the Vicolo della Scrofa, which we can translate as South Street in English, is one of the most characteristic and full of symbol streets of Rome. And it seems that the first spaghetti alla carbonara were made on a restaurant on that street in 1944. The most reliable story, in fact, tells the encounter between the ingredients available to the American soldiers and the imagination of a Roman cook. The result was the prototype of spaghetti carbonara: eggs, bacon, which later becomes jowl fat, which is guanciale in Italian, and cheese. Gradually, the recipe has evolved to one that we all know today and can be enjoyed in friends' home, in trattorias, and also in starred restaurants in Rome, throughout Italy and abroad.
In carbonara, the ingredients are fundamental and it is very important to respect them to avoid being arrested by the gourmet policemen who patrol the Italian kitchen. In detail, here is a recipe for 4 people. Italian spaghetti 320 grams, guanciale 150 grams, medium eggs yolks 6, pecorino romano cheese 50 grams, and black pepper.
I recommend it is absolutely forbidden to putting too much egg in the carbonara. Replace the jowl fat with pork belly or worse with bacon. Furthermore, it is punishable by arrest up to 2 years by the gourmet police. Adding cream to the carbonara, please don't do it. Or improvising a do-it-yourself carbonara, inventing the recipe on the spot. There is some evidence here of the crimes committed by some dissolute do-it-yourself gentlemen. So Matteo, can you show us how to prepare the spaghetti carbonara properly, I mean, the Italian way?
Of course, Roberto. To prepare spaghetti carbonara, let's start by putting a saucepan on the stove. The salt must not be too much because the guanciale is already salty. A small handful is enough when the water is boiled. In the meantime, we remove the rind from the guanciale and cut it first into slices and then into strips about 1 or 2 centimeters thick. Once this is done, brown it for about 15 minutes over medium heat. You don't need to add either butter or oil. The guanciale already contains some fat, which when melting will grease the pan, preventing the meat from sticking to the bottom. Please be careful not to burn the guanciale, otherwise it will become hard and release a really strong aroma. Once this is done, it's time to dedicate ourselves to spaghetti. Did you buy the spaghetti, Roberto?
Of course I did. I bought them online in an e-commerce store and they arrived directly at home.
Oh, speaking about the e-commerce. E-commerce Universal Analytics versus GA4. The new tracking of Google Analytics 4 is different than the old Universal Analytics. You probably know that GA4 has a new data model based on events only. What changed with the e-commerce tracking part? Here is a summary scheme. In this table we have all actions dedicated to e-commerce tracking in Universal Analytics and in GA4. In green we have the actions that has a full correspondence from Universal Analytics to GA4. In yellow there is the checkout action that has a partial correspondence from Universal Analytics to GA4. GA4 actually needs a new specific action for the checkout step. In red we have the actions that have no correspondence from Universal to GA4. If you use Tag Manager, pay attention to the structure of the object e-commerce that contains the product information. In the old Universal Analytics, the object called product was inside an object model. In GA4, the object is called items and it contains all information in GA4. The products object is not nested in action object. But there is an exception. In GA4, the only product object that is nested in action object is the purchase action. Well, this exception makes no sense, just like the folks that put cream on the carbonara. Anyway, how can you set the e-commerce tracking with the Google Tag Manager? You can use the guide of Simo Ava. I love it. It's really detailed and explain the configuration of every single action. I suggest you also to subscribe to Simo's brand new The Simma newsletter. If you already have Universal Analytics, you can also use my English guide that you find on Tag Manager Italia website. Okay, back to the important stuff.
Now we can throw the spaghetti into the boiling water and cook them for the time indicated on the package. Pay attention because this is very important. Every type of pasta in Italy is cooked al dente. Al dente means that we must remove the pasta from the heat when it is still hard, hard enough to avoid the classic mistake of overcooking it, making it so soft. In other words, the pasta must not melt immediately in the mouth, but must be chewed in order to be able to taste it at its best. Meanwhile, pour the egg yolks into a bowl. And of course, add the most of the pecorino cheese required by the recipe. We keep the rest of the pecorino cheese for later, because we need it to garnish the pasta.
Now season with black pepper and mix well with a hand whisk. Finally, add a tablespoon of cooking water to dilute the mixture and mix again. The cooking water is important because it contains starch that will thicken the mixture.
Meanwhile, the guanciale is cooked, and then we turn off the heat and let it rest.
Now that the pasta is cooked, we can drain it directly into the pan with the guanciale and saute briefly to flour it.
Now, turn off the heat and pour the egg and the pecorino mixture into the pot, away from the stove. This is to avoid the very dangerous omelette effect, where the eggs and pecorino congeal. If necessary, we can make the pasta creamier by adding a little more cooking water to the pasta. In this way, the creaminess is guaranteed.
Now the spaghetti are ready. The chef's final touch is the dish. Just a pair of tongs and a ladle.
Now we can immediately serve the spaghetti, flooring them with the leftover pecorino and with some black pepper.
The pasta is ready.
Finally, the pasta is ready.
Thank you all for your attention, and see you next year.
On the mountain top, of course.
In the meantime, enjoy your meal.
Ciao a tutti!
Ciao!